Hello? Is that, yeah? Oh, it is. It is me. Good. So I'm just taking all my hundreds of sheets of paper off the clipboard so that I can turn them over easily. No, there's not that many in this. Okay, I'm going to start by telling you an amusing story. And it's a true story. And can I have the picture, Sarah? I'm sure most of you have seen these bins around. And one school I was working in, we had these bins on our playground. And in order to empty the bins out, you have to pull the white bit down to take the bin out and empty it. I was teaching a PE lesson on the playground, and one of the boys, who was a lovely boy, but he did get things wrong quite often, did something, I can't even remember what it was, that made me say, right, out, 5 minutes, you're going to calm down. And he went and sat on the bin. As he sat on the bin, the white bit fell down with quite a crash. So I looked round and he looked at me and he said, "It weren't me, miss." And I said, "Of course it was you. You're sitting on it." It's a very funny story. We were right by the office window, and it was summer and the office windows were open, and the staff in the office were apparently in absolute stitches because they heard me mention the boy's name and they knew exactly who it was and exactly what had happened. So they thought it was very funny as well. The thing is, denying that we're in the wrong is completely natural, especially if we think we're going to get into trouble. It's obviously the wrong thing to do, but it's a natural reaction. And that's really what happened in our Bible story. It was the Thursday evening, the day before Jesus was crucified. And Jesus was with his disciples. And Peter, the brave one who always put his foot in it, said, "Lord, I'm ready to go with you and even die with you." And Jesus said to him, "Peter, let me tell you something. Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny 3 times that you even know me." Peter was indignant. Of course that wasn't right. And then came the time when Jesus was arrested. Peter was there. And he wanted to go with Jesus. He really did want to go with Jesus. And he followed him at a distance. And I'll read what it says in the Bible. So they arrested him and led him to the high priest's home, and Peter followed at a distance. The guards lit a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat around it, and Peter joined them there. A servant girl noticed him in the firelight and began staring at him. Finally she said, "This man was one of Jesus' followers." But Peter denied it. "Woman," he said, "I don't even know him." After a while, someone else looked at him and said, "You must be one of them." "No, man, I'm not," Peter retorted. About an hour later, someone else insisted, "This must be one of them, because he's a Galilean too." But Peter said, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." Immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. At that moment, the Lord turned and looked at Peter. I wonder how Peter felt then. Suddenly the Lord's words flashed through Peter's mind, Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny 3 times that you even know me." And Peter left the courtyard, weeping bitterly. I've done it again. I'm sure Peter felt like that. And I guess we often do as well, if we're really honest, when we get things wrong. But this isn't the end of Peter's story. After that meltdown, Jesus was crucified, and Peter was there watching. After Jesus had risen, they met for breakfast on the beach. And I'm not going to go into all the details. They're in John chapter 21 if you want to read them. But after breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. "You know that I love you." "Then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter said. "You know I love you." "Then take care of my sheep," Jesus said. A third time he asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time, and he said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." Peter was hurt that he asked the question a third time. I'm sure it was significant that he asked him 3 times. Jesus was showing Peter that he'd forgiven him. But he was also showing him that he still trusted him and that he had a job for him to do. He didn't just forgive him, he set him a task. And I guess just as we're like Peter in getting things wrong, we're also like Peter in being offered forgiveness. Jesus showed Peter mercy and grace. Now here in Connect, we often hear those words, mercy and grace. They're words we often sing. In fact, the songs we're singing this morning mention them quite often. But what do they actually mean? In forgiving Peter, Jesus showed him mercy. He didn't treat Peter the way that he deserved to be treated. In fact, the way that probably most of us would have treated Peter if he'd done that to us. So in forgiving him, Jesus showed him mercy. And that's what mercy is all about. We've all done wrong things and we've gone against God. And as God forgives us, he shows us mercy. He doesn't treat us as our wrongdoing deserves. In 1 John, we read that if we say we're not sinners, we're only fooling ourselves. But if we admit it, God will forgive us. And when we've done wrong and we admit it to God, he's not there with a stick to punish us. He's there with open arms to welcome us. But in entrusting Peter with his church, Jesus showed him grace. He gave him the trust that his actions didn't deserve. In just the same way, Jesus is willing to entrust you and I with working in his kingdom. Maybe you don't really know God. Maybe you just know about him. Is God calling you to take that first step and receive his mercy and his forgiveness? But maybe you do know God. Maybe you've known him for a very long time. And God is calling you to be part of something and receive his grace. Jesus may not be asking you to do something big. like he was asking Peter to do, although of course he may be. But whoever you are, and whatever God is calling you to do, talk to someone that you trust and who knows God, and they will be able to help you.